Evolving with Soul, a conversation series for self discovery and soul alignment. Explore the path of personal growth and awaken your inner wisdom. Each episode offers soulful insights, practical tools, and real reflections to support your evolution from the inside out. This is Evolving with Soul. I'm Josette Diaz. Through the Art of Awareness community membership, I guide women back to their true essence, free from expectations. Join us in the journey, Evolving with Soul, new episodes weekly.
Welcome to Evolving with Soul. My name is Josette Diaz and I am your host. Today we are going to be talking about the feminine current, where creativity begins. So for many of us, the feeling of creativity is blocked or disconnected. And in this episode of Evolving with Soul, we explore the deep magnetic power of the feminine energy, the place where intuition, flow, and creation live. This isn't about gender, it's about energy. The feminine invites us to soften, slow down, and listen deeply. It's the space of stillness and surrender that the soul speaks and creativity flows. If you've been feeling stuck or disconnected from your inner muse, this conversation will guide you back to the wellspring within. As I mentioned, my name is Josette Diaz, and I'm a self awareness coach and creative strategist for women in midlife. Most people live on autopilot, mistaking familiarity for self awareness. Now, I run a beautiful community called the Art of Awareness, which invites you into the unseen, where the soul speaks, patterns dissolve, and a deeper way of living begins. Now, I'd like to introduce my guest, Laura Rubinstein. And Laura is an award-winning digital media and marketing strategist, hypnotherapist, master leadership coach, speaker, and best-selling author. She has developed branding and business growth strategies for over 1,500 businesses. Laura fuels entrepreneurs' visions through profit-generating strategy sessions, her blog and boutique marketing agency at transformtoday.com. As a feminine power catalyst, she facilitates feminine wisdom circles, the Ignite Your Feminine Soul program, and offers feminine influence code sessions for women visionaries and thought leaders. So I'm very excited to have this conversation. Let's get started. Laura, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here on Evolving with Soul.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
I know. I'm so excited to have this conversation. It's something that's very important to me, and I think for many women it is, right?
Mhm.
Can we just start off with what led you to this work?
Yes. Um, it's a pretty intense story. Never saw myself as feminine, and I uh, didn't know that that was even a thing. I was going about being Miss Assertive USA and my life and doing and in my early 20s and getting things done and having a life, but I wasn't happy.
Mm.
I had a relationship and a good a relationship with a good man and
Yeah.
a good job. But I was like, remember driving to work one day feeling like I figure out how to make myself happy, like because I'm just not. And then it's like the universe answered that question, not in the way I would have wanted it.
Yeah.
But that day, my boss was like, yeah, we're going to move you to a different role of software testing. And I have no interest in
Mm.
software testing. And then I got home that night, and my fiance at the time said, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. So we're not getting married. It was a bad
Wow.
day, a
Wow.
really
Yeah.
bad, intense day. On that day, it felt like the worst day. Looking back on it, I can say it was the best day because it thrust me into a
Right.
soul searching journey. And I don't know, I'm such a solution oriented person.
Mhm.
Like I said, I have to figure it out.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I went into therapy, I did personal development programs, and then I met a mentor
Mm.
who stood in front, and she wound up becoming a mentor after being at a networking meeting. And she stood in front of the room and she gave her 30-second pitch, which basically said, "Hi, my name is, I lead gatherings for succulent wild women, and we discuss and explore the most powerful form of energy there is, feminine power."
Mm.
And I was like, "What
Wow.
did she say?" And
Yeah.
then I beelined for her after, and I said, "Can we have lunch? I don't know what you're talking about, but I
Yeah.
want to learn more and I
Yeah.
need to know more before I make a decision to take your succulent wild women
Yeah.
program."
Yeah.
That
It's
was a
that
little
word succulent
intimidating
that
to
gets
me.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as it turns out, many people listening will know that Succulent Wild Women Dancing with Your Wonderful Self is a book by Sark. And she did ask Sark if she could use that name for her groups and gatherings. Then she then changed a couple of years later the name of the program to Embracing the Feminine.
Mm.
So we started exploring feminine. The very first question she asked was, "Well, how do you define it?" And I was like, "Laura Ashley, flowers and lace." That
Yeah.
was my definition of feminine. It
Yeah.
was like a decor thing,
Right, right, right.
which I was not into. So I just didn't understand why anybody would like those things. And the more I softened, the more I said, "This is kind of nice, actually." So she said I walked into her program as kind of like an ice queen. And I really struggled. I wanted answers. Give me answers. And
Mhm.
you know, I had to kind of be melted a little bit with
Yeah.
with the feminine. So um I just realized that at one point she said, "My answers are not your answers.
Mm.
You're going to have to allow answers to come to you and
Yeah.
learn for yourself." And it took me like a year to figure to embrace that way of being. But every time she taught me, or every time I came across, and whether it was my therapy or spiritual, I was like doing everything.
Yeah.
A nugget that I knew I wasn't embodying, but resonated with me somewhere deeply. And
Mhm.
it was like, if I could only bring that part of myself out, I know I'd be more engaged with myself. I'd be more connected to myself. I'd be more
Mm.
loving of myself.
Mhm.
Not those words at the time, but I'd write them down, these nuggets of these principles, really, of how to embody the feminine as it turned out.
Mm.
And I had a whole deck of um, index cards,
Yeah.
basically, that I would be flipping through as I'm going through dating or working or trying to figure out something in myself. How do I be happy or less antsy? And when I came to the card that really resonated for where I was at, I kind of sat with it. I might have journaled on it. I may have just thought about it through the day. I might have asked questions to girlfriends and mentors about these concepts. And I
Mhm.
stayed in the inquiry of, how do I heal myself? How
Mm.
do I find my joy? It became the question, what is
Mhm.
joy? And out of the index cards, I really grew and these mentors,
Yeah.
and then I created a deck of wisdom cards out of that called the Feminine Power cards. They're behind me as well.
So beautiful.
So that's kind of the beginning of that journey.
So would you say the part of you that had to quiet down for you to hear that voice, would you say that had a name? What would you have called that identity that you were living in for so long?
Well, part of it was my inner critic,
Mm.
a big part of it. She took up a lot of space in my head.
Yeah, yeah.
And she was in charge. She knew what's right for me. She
Mm.
knew um, how things should be. She has very high standards.
Mhm.
And um, I had to create a loving relationship with her, like, because she had good intentions, right? She
Right.
wanted the best for me,
Yeah.
but it was at my expense.
Yes.
So I had to kind of start treating her like a little child that I adored.
Mm.
Like, I know you want the best for me, and I needed a language to talk to her in.
Right, right.
And so I had to learn how to talk to her and say, that let's try a different way. I know we're on the same page about where we want to be. We both want me to be happy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So when I could realize that she wasn't something to be resisted or bought or have the biggest say so, I could turn down the volume of her
Mm.
intensity, and then I
Hmm.
could bring in other voices like compassion and grace and love and self-nurturing. And she felt better and I felt better, and she still gets to see things the way she does and give me her insight, but she's no longer the driver.
Right.
In my brain, we have like, we all have different parts of each other, of ourselves.
Yes.
And I love to engage with them in different ways and give them different voice. And it's like holding counsel with yourself. Um, and so do I relate to do I do this counsel like a council meeting? No. It's like anybody else. You're thinking and a voice comes into your head, and then you kind of have to talk to this. You
Right.
have to think it through, or you don't. That was
Mhm.
the beauty. I could let go of thinking and I could just allow. That was one of the principles, one of the
Right.
these have two sides, principles and practices.
Love
And
that.
the one of the principles is allowing the
Hmm.
solution to emerge, or allow the 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 situation to be and see what emerges from it. And there's great power and there's great trust, which is part of that power that has to be developed
Yeah.
and practiced. And it's all practice. It's all like this is like the feminine power gym,
Yes, exactly.
and so it became this really interesting journey for me to explore. And I like to say I walked into it as an infant, and I'm still in somewhere in early childhood. Went through toddler and screaming and doing my tantrums
Yeah.
about it. And now I'm like toddler to, teenager or something,
Hmm.
somewhere
Yeah.
early childhood to, we're growing. I'm never done. And it's fun now
Mm.
to explore it.
Yes.
And what's really beautiful, that whole journey happened 26 years ago, seven
Yeah.
years ago,
Yeah.
8 years ago. And now everybody's talking about the feminine. Imagine back then.
I know. It was
That's
like,
why
what?
it was so foreign to
Oh,
me.
yeah. Yeah.
And because nobody was talking about it except this mentor that I met and,
Hmm.
some other people, but it wasn't like in the lexicon
Right.
as now
Exactly.
with women. So I knew it would be coming because, it's taking a while to, and then it will just be.
Right. Well, and it's so easy when you reflect back on different attitudes that we had, even, um, I hate to even say that it was, how long ago were the 90s? You know,
25 years ago is
right?
the turn of the century, right?
Yeah, exactly. And even when I watch like The West Wing, nothing against The West Wing, love it. Yet when you watch that, it's interesting the interactions and the attitudes that we had towards women in different positions. And it's very interesting to rewatch those and kind of like see where we were as a society, what we thought and what we how we treated one another,
Yeah.
what was acceptable at the time, which I think is interesting. What I love about what you shared is that you've given an insight into how to identify that part of yourself that is countering the feminine energy of stillness, allowing, being in the unknown. I love all of that. And having a dialogue, creating a dialogue, and then creating cards, a beautiful deck of cards to help women understand that feminine energy within them.
Yeah.
And those are the feminine power cards, which are, I mean, it's beautiful what you've created out of this work that you've been doing on yourself. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you.
Since we're talking about that inner critic, and I'd like to move into a little bit of what that can push us to do. And so I first want to ask you how you see productivity. What does that mean to you to be productive? Because I think a lot of people sometimes think that production equals something it may not. So I'd love to hear your take on that.
The art of awareness is for the high achieving woman who is ready to have a soul conversation with herself. We use creative strategies. There's no need to be an artist. You don't even have to consider yourself creative. All you need is your curiosity. This is where you explore what's been quietly waiting for you underneath all the roles, the rules, the rushing, the real you. If you're feeling like something isn't quite landing, even when everything looks good, this is your invitation to slow down, listen deeply, and connect within. The art of awareness. Come meet the part of you you've been missing.
Oh, I'm very utilitarian. That's kind of like my profile. I love being productive.
Hmm.
Um, for me, it's taking care of myself. It's taking care of my space. Um, it feels whole. I feel whole when I'm, it's almost productive is almost like creating things and or organizing. I love organizing. So I guess productivity to me, and maybe nobody else's definition, is like being organized and having structures that allow me to relax,
Mm.
you know. Um, Last night I had to clean the dishes before I went to bed because I smelled something and I would not have a
Yeah.
restful sleep if if I knew there was mold or something growing, right?
Yeah.
And it felt so good. I just wanted to stay in my clean kitchen for like bask in it. You know, it was kind of a beautiful thing, but it was getting late. So I wanted to go to bed at the same time. So we went to bed, me and all my little posse in my head.
I love that. I love that you frame productivity in this way because it's like I think that I know that I've thought of productivity as being the list of things that I need to do. And I love being productive as well. I like accomplishment. I like to finish a task. In fact, I sometimes have a hard time putting down that task and end up staying way longer than is maybe good for me sometimes. And so I love that you framed productivity around a feminine point of view, and that productivity is a space of doing in a way that has a framework of pace. That's what I
Mm.
hear you saying. And it's paced to provide those moments of pause in the process of being productive. So I really love that definition of the way that you see productivity. It's really quite beautiful.
It's self-care for me in a way.
Yes, I completely hear that, and I understand how that works that
Yeah.
way. I love that. I'm going to redefine my productivity now. And since we're talking about productivity, because I think a lot of times that gets mixed in with hustle.
Mm.
So, how would you say that hustle has shown up in your own pursuit of success?
Yeah, it's part of our culture and it's hard to disentangle from. Early in my career, I decided that, oh man, I got bought into the gotta have residual income, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I joined a very good network marketing organization and they're still around today. And I bought into the dream. You know, you build the bigger organization, you get to diamond or crown or whatever
Yeah.
the levels are, and you're like get on stages and you have this luxurious lifestyle and you have residual income. And I was hustling it, man. I went, and it was so good for me in the beginning because I went from a really shy, introverted person to
Mhm.
being a social someone who could walk into a grocery store and meet 10 people and walk out with their phone numbers. You know, like I enjoyed myself
Love
and
that.
meeting people, and it really helped me in my career, my job, my job that paid me a paycheck at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And because I grew in management there, I got leadership skills and I got sales skills and all this. And but it wasn't happening for me. I wasn't building a great organization, even though I was hustling so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then and then when corporate America and I broke up, which was shortly after I got moved into software testing, we broke up. And ah, I was hustling because I was like, I had this vision. I'm going to do the
Mhm.
network marketing thing. I had some money in the bank and it wasn't happening. But I also took a hypnosis training, right?
Mm.
And not because I thought I'd build a business, but yeah, maybe I could help people. I
Right.
always wanted to do something holistic, so I was exploring. It was my soul searching journey here. I was doing the feminine power. I was, doing my network marketing, doing my personal development, and I just said, okay, well, what if I had a hypno coaching business? Because I was doing coach training and hypnosis
Mhm.
training, and I created hypno coaching before probably somebody else has now trademarked it, but I never did.
Yeah.
So I said, oh, well, I'll use the same prospecting techniques that I've been using when I'm hustling my network marketing. And I got better results when I was talking about hypno coaching.
Ah,
People were like, tell me more.
yeah.
Yes, I want to talk to you about that. Yeah, I'd love to have a session. So, um, like, it was like, okay, well, maybe the hustle isn't what I should be doing. The universe
Mm.
is speaking really clear to me that the network marketing, the dream of residual income is not where I'm supposed to be. I had to get rid of that dream. I had to transmute that dream into a different. I said, oh, you mean I could have a lifestyle that serves me without having to be a residual income mogul here with the network marketing? Like I had to talk myself into that and out of like hustle, 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 because that's the only
Right.
way to be and get you know,
Y-
your lifestyle that you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
And do I really need the 3-car garage and if it's going to cost me my soul?
Right.
No,
Yeah.
I can deal with a 1-car garage. That's
Yeah.
fine, you know.
It's not so.
And then I don't have to like then all my heightened fears of anxiety and I can deal with on a because the bigger this dream, it felt so magnified by
Yes.
the people on stage,
Mhm.
in these network marketing organizations that I couldn't even get to myself. I was in a fishbowl drowning and I wasn't a fish, right? I needed
Yeah.
to be in
Yeah.
my own playground, not in a fishbowl where it wasn't feeding my soul at all.
Mm-hmm.
I got some great things. There was a purpose for it, my personal growth,
Right.
invaluable. Like that's worth millions to me.
Yeah.
The joy in my heart is worth far more than a residual income paycheck.
Yeah.
And when I got there, hustle didn't matter anymore.
Mm.
Hustle was bankrupt. Hustle is so bankrupt. When I got it, I was like, all these people are hypnotized that
Yeah.
hustle is your happiness. It's not,
That's
it's
right.
bankrupt.
Yeah.
And then I was free to do, and I see it today in the marketing industry. I work with digital marketing
Mhm.
and everybody's chasing that new shiny object, that new shiny why, because they think it's going to bring in that residual income, that or that bigger paycheck, and they're bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
They're following a bankrupt, they're a hope, a shiny object that is really saying, turn the mirror around and look
Yeah.
at yourself and what you want. Everything you need is right here.
Mm-hmm.
Your heart is most important. Yes, you need to pay the bills. You
Right.
always should have a way to pay the bills. But does that mean, when you get the dollar signs in your eyes, it's not necessarily going to fulfill you.
Right.
It may fill your bank account if you're really good at that, if that hustle is your
Uh-huh.
thing. But how's your soul doing?
Mm-hmm.
You might have pleasures in life, but how's your soul doing?
I think that that's such a good point that you're raising. And I think that this is the way I see how hustle can be so damaging is that you get into that bubble, like you were expressing that being in that environment sort of fed you this roadmap that you followed for a period of time, learned some things from, yet at the same time being able to step back from that, I'm sure you could see so clearly how that just led you to a series of decisions that didn't align with you. And we get into that practice of doing that because we're raised that way, our society operates that way. And so we don't stop and think about how that is affecting us inside.
Yeah.
It doesn't even come to the surface until either you have some kind of inkling that there's something more, which is what I feel midlife is for women in so many ways, is that waking up moment. And it's also, or if something happens that either can be really traumatic or creates a large shift in your life to make you look at things in a different way. And I think those are the moments when people really start to reanalyze how they live their life and how disconnected they are within themselves. And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to occur that way. It can occur by unfolding yourself, allowing yourself to see the patterns. And once you can see the patterns, then you hear those voices more often, right? You hear that inner critic that you were talking about earlier. You see these beautiful places where you can open yourself up and do something that you feel most aligned with, like what you did in your pursuit of coaching and hypnotherapy and creating something that offered a new way to other people, which what a beautiful thing that you've done and opening that up in this way. And I'd
I
like, go
think
ahead.
some people hearing this might be a little scared if they're used to the
Mm,
hustle as the way.
yes.
Um, and it's about taking small step back,
Mm-hmm.
opening the door to maybe it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And if so, what else is possible? What do you really want? And I would invite people to take a little bravery there because I
Mm-hmm.
think the hustle is not the brave choice.
Right.
Um, and we all have that bravery if we're willing to, it's not going to crush you. And if you feel like it is, that's the inner critic saying,
Yeah.
oh no, we're not
Oh,
going,
yeah.
we're hustling, baby.
Yeah.
And getting into
Mm-hmm.
relationship with that inner critic or that voice that says, I have to stuff down my wants and desires because otherwise I'm going to die, you know,
Yeah.
it's not true. It's a veil of illusion. And I would be open to dismantling the veil,
Mm-hmm. Well
open,
said.
just willing. That's the first step.
Yes. Be willing. Yeah. And get curious about it.
Yeah, totally.
Because I think that that mentality keeps you numb to yourself
Hmm.
and just keeps
Yeah,
you rolling and rolling and rolling. And it is a process of unraveling.
yeah.
And it's not as scary as it sounds.
Oh,
Sounds
it's scary, but you have the strength. And
right,
and the minute you pierce the veil, the fear goes, oh, it's like disappeared.
right.
It's like it's like turning on a light. It's
Yes.
like there is no dark if you have a light.
The thing, and it's like the things that, well, like Roosevelt said, um, there's nothing to fear but fear itself.
Hmm.
And inviting that fear to sit within you,
Hmm.
welcoming it, just the simple practice of welcoming it. Okay, I'm feeling afraid. This sounds scary. Come on in. Come on in and sit next to me. Because that simple act of asking it to sit with you
Mm.
is putting it into the light. It's giving it its acknowledgement. And really all that, it is wanting is for you to see it. And so if you see it, it then starts to disintegrate.
Our fear is as smart as we are and as spiritual as we are, and it wants the best for us.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's similar to that inner critic.
Yeah.
It wants to be seen and known and calmed.
Yes, exactly.
I like to say, don't let fear run your life. Unless you're in danger, then run for your life.
Right. That's
Like
great.
physical danger,
I
then run
love
for your
that.
life.
Yes, exactly. Well, I'd like to kind of switch gears a little bit here, since we're on the topic of around femininity and how that moves through your life, is how does the feminine lead differently than the masculine? Because we're talking about hustle, which I equate to as a very, logical left brain masculine
Mhm.
activity. And what has she, the feminine, taught you about leadership and intuition and a creative authority?
Well, I did take to heart the very first thing my mentor said, which was it's the most powerful form of energy there is. And
Mm,
I set out to, with curiosity, like, how could that be? And so I started learning about what are these feminine principles
mhm,
and of curiosity is one, of allowing, of trust, of receiving, of graciousness, of gratitude. All of these are nurturing, of self-care. And I realized that I could bring those to the table.
mhm.
And listening to our inner desires and our truth. Um, and and a lot of that listening was like listening to Chinese. Like I'd have interpretations of my feelings,
Yeah.
but then it was more reactions to them. But then I was like, if I'm feeling sad, it's because I want to feel joy. Like there's something in there there's something underneath that. So I had to
Mm,
learn Chinese, the Chinese of my soul, as so
yeah.
to speak. And as I did that, I let her voice, I turned up the volume of her voice of what do you want? What
Mhm,
decisions am I making? What do I have here to make? And what would your answer be?
mhm.
Feminine, feminine
Yeah.
side of me.
Yeah.
And I gave her the airtime and actually started to let her be the decision maker. And
Mm,
then the masculine could be my implementer. It's
that's
just like I
right.
think you and I were talking once
Yes.
before. I said, and the scene in My Big Fat Greek Wedding, that movie, the mother of the family said, yes, he's the head of the household, her husband, but I turn the head.
That's right.
I turn his head.
Yeah.
Look here, go here.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like, yes, he's got that strong masculine energy that does stuff, that makes stuff happen. But um, as I come to see how powerful the feminine is, I let her make the decisions, and
Mhm.
in concert with my problem solving analytical logical mind that is mostly masculine, I will have the masculine come into play and do this beautiful dance with the feminine.
That's right.
And the
Yes.
feminine gives lots of grace and to the masculine as well. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, and the whole body, like, okay, we have these great goals. Let's make sure we're taking care of ourselves in the process. How can we have
Yeah.
this union, this effective union? And um, there's so much wisdom in the feminine. It's subtle and it's not linear.
Mhm.
And we have to allow it. We have to give it space. We have to slow down. And a
Yes.
lot of times I won't have words for my resulting action of grace, or, I will have to sit with it to really do the translation to
Mm,
explain what it is. We're
yeah.
all, I feel like the feminine is like brailing, bringing her out. It's like, how do I do this?
Right.
I don't really know, but I stick to my principles, and maybe there's more to come, and get more as they come. And then stuff happens.
Yeah.
It's so much easier. And that, what you were saying earlier when you introduced the show about finding that flow, it happens
Mhm.
when we
Yeah.
trust and we follow those principles. And
And that flow really helps you tap into that creative part of you, which is definitely the feminine.
Absolutely. One of
And
my
when,
favorite parts.
yes, and intuition and when you're in that create, I find in the art of awareness that the women become more in tune with their intuitive part of themselves through the creative process that we go through because they're creating a direct dialogue with their soul this way. And
Very.
so they're allowing the space and this and enough stillness in those moments to receive, which is very feminine, activity is to be in that position of receiving. So then it increases that connection to their intuition, and it allows them to start to recognize that rhythm, that flow that exists. And so I think that is what you're talking about is just a beautiful way of accessing ourselves. And we sometimes don't always, we haven't up to now, like we were talking about earlier, recognize the value of all of this. And it is a language, like I love that you defined that it can it requires some thoughtfulness in order to convey and to articulate the meaning behind it and the power behind it and what drives it and how you connect it to the masculine in order to instruct. And you're doing this all within yourself. So it might sound a little like, crazy town in there, yet if you really were to sit back and look at what's going on inside of yourself right now, how chaotic does that feel? You know, having this relationship with yourself in this healthy way of using your own energy provides a calm structure. And then we become informing rather than reactionary all the time.
Yeah. And reflective and
Yeah.
responsive,
Yeah.
responsible.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I love that. I love that. So if the feminine is the place where all creation begins, what is waiting to be birthed through you right now? And what do you need to surrender for it to emerge? Because
I
that's the
put,
process, right?
yeah, yeah. My instant answer is I don't know, and that's okay.
Yep.
And what I love doing in the um, nature of that question, the spirit of that question is to put myself in creative situations, places where I can explore my creativity. So I don't want to have an answer to that almost. Um, but what I want to do and what I do is so, for example, I take ceramics
Mhm.
classes and go to open studios and do clay play dates with
Mm-hmm.
friends and family. And so, and then I put myself in this space. There's no have to, there's no should. Um, I've gotten to the point where it's play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to create a masterpiece of anything. It's just mud I'm playing with, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm playing with the mud and I let my fingers and imagination just do what they do. And sometimes we just ball it up again. And sometimes we just throw it out after it's done. Sometimes something really cool comes to fruition and then it sparks other ideas. And when I give, it's nurturing my soul because it's letting my creativity play without expectation.
Mm.
And so I am surrendering to the creativity. So what do
Mm-hmm.
I need to surrender? I just need to surrender to the clay, um,
Yeah.
to the creative process. And when you do that in one area, you bring that into other areas, right? So then I can be more playful in my relationships. I can be more
Yeah.
playful in my business. And I might even find myself saying to a client, well, let's play with this idea. Or I have an idea that may not be on target, but I'm going to say it anyway because it may spark something in you.
Right.
And I don't have the right answer. I know this isn't the right answer, but it's something for us to like spin around
Mm-hmm.
and put our head to another direction than we're in right now. And sometimes we have to, the word is trick ourselves, but it's not accurate. It's like we're so in one mode that we have to interrupt the pattern. Maybe the
Yep.
better word is pattern interrupt ourselves with another thought, another energy state, another idea, another person, a physical something. Just go with it. If you know you're
Hmm.
stuck, do something that might unstuck you.
Yeah.
You don't have to be right about it.
Yes.
Like you don't have to have the answers. I find people are afraid to play with clay, for example, because they're afraid they're going to suck at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, you are going to suck at it. But that's not why you play with clay to
Right.
be a master artist. You play with clay or do, and that's just an analogy. It's like you go do something new
Yeah.
to break the pattern, to
Hmm.
find something else about yourself, to explore your joy. And
Yeah.
if your inner critics are preventing you from experiencing joy, that's a good aha.
Hmm.
Instead of letting that inner critic or whatever your, mother figure or whatever this person or voice in your head is run the show. So when you say no to something that other people, that not other people, that, otherwise, if you didn't have this voice in your head telling you
Hmm.
no, might you play with it?
Hmm.
And if so, where can you safely step into these moments of experiencing feminine energy?
Hmm.
Of creativity, of nurturing. Like I wasn't very nurturing back in that day where I was Miss Ice Queen. But when I would get around kids, I would want to be nurturing.
Mm.
And I said, "Oh my gosh, this is my practice. This is my gym. I need to get around as many kids as I can."
Yeah.
And I didn't have many kids in my life because I'm a
Right.
20 something and I don't have people who have babies and stuff in my life yet.
Yeah.
But um I moved to San Diego where my cousin had a baby, and I spent a lot of time with that kid, just
Yeah.
letting my inner nurture out. And then guess what? It bubbles out. And
Exactly.
I started practicing also with myself. Like, what if I was a little kid? What would I say to myself? And so sometimes we have to trick ourselves into the state we want, into learning about states we actually want to create. But
Yeah.
it was a passion of mine. It was a soul desire
Hmm.
to be joyful, experience my joy, have a harmonious, juicy relationship in my life, and a job that or a career that really fulfilled me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those two driving forces, because, I think one of the only valuable things that Sigmund Freud left us with was, you know, what makes life meaningful is meaningful work and love. And
Mm.
I wanted both. And I went with those and those initiatives, shall we
Mhm.
say, and went forth and I keep going and still to this day.
Yes. Well, and you kind
And
of,
I found it, by the way.
yeah, yeah, yes. Yay.
Story has a happy ending.
Yeah, I love that. What the biggest things that I hear in what you're saying is surrender over and over and over. I keep hearing the word
Mhm.
surrender. It's like
Mhm.
that process when you were talking about the clay, it was like you were surrendering to the clay to mold itself. And I love that. It does take you right into that flow. And as many people have heard this, that what you focus on expands, right? And so, looking at even finding other ways to surrender to your own femininity by being around your cousin's baby, engaging in that innocence that allows you to feel the nurturing part of you bubbling up and where that took you. I mean, what a beautiful story. What a lovely trajectory that you've been on and what you've created along the way and how you help other women experience this and make it less scary for them to dive into is such beautiful work, Laura.
Thank you. Mm.
And I really am so, so grateful that we had this conversation and that you were here with me on Evolving with Soul. I want to
Oh,
thank you for being here.
thank you for nurturing my soul
Oh,
and allowing me to express something I'm passionate about. I've never told some of these stories before. So
I love that. They're fantastic stories.
yeah, we all have great stories, and as we tell them, I think we liberate each other and ourselves.
Mhm.
And I mean, I
Right.
remember with the being around children, it was like I silently said a little prayer, teach me to
Mhm.
each of those little children. I was like, teach me how to be more of who I am
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're being exactly who you are.
Right.
And they gave me permission.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that because there's a process I love to take women through, which is I call it the golden thread. Golden thread is used for a lot of things, yet I love to take women back and follow that golden thread to when they first felt something that sparked them.
Mm,
And it goes back to your childhood. And it's
mm,
been with you all throughout. And it's a matter of recognizing it and noticing it. And I think that you can use that golden thread for so many moments of finding that innocence, to finding that moment of awe that we all experience at certain moments when we're young. And we have a recognition of truth and desire within ourselves.
mm.
And when we can find that spark again, we can follow it forward and emulate what it is that has always been within us. Then we're getting closer to that truest part of ourselves, the true essence of us within. So, um,
So
anyways,
beautiful. Thank you.
yeah.
Mhm.
Is there anything that you have coming up? What would you like to share with the audience? And, please go for it.
Every month we run a feminine wisdom circle, and I'd like to invite any woman listening to that. The best way to do that is to go to our femininepowercards.com site and look for the open house uh, and or the feminine wisdom circle there and join us. It's an hour, 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern, on usually the last Monday of the month, sometimes the second to last, depending on how many Mondays there are in that month
Yeah.
and schedules. And it's just an hour where we let down our hair and we practice being in the feminine together. And so if you want to do it in community, which I always find is a unique thing because we don't have many communities where we just say, hey, let's be in the feminine and come from that place and practice a principle together.
Yeah.
But it nurtures, it can really reset you. So
Mhm.
invite people to our feminine wisdom circle.
It's a beautiful circle. I've been to your circle several times, and it is a wonderful experience. So you all should go.
And it's free right now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You get to hang out with some really wonderful women, and like Laura said, you practice a principle, and it's very um it just allows you to really sit within yourself and get into that flow of your femininity. And it's a beautiful space to be in. Is there a way that if anyone is interested in getting your feminine power cards, how they could do that? Just by going to the website, or is
Yeah.
there? Okay.
Femininepowercards.com
Okay.
is you can order them right there. If anybody needs to get a hold of me, Laura at transformtoday.com is my email.
Okay, beautiful. I'll put all of that in our posting, and so everyone will have that information as well. And I want to thank you so much, Laura, for being here with me. It was such a beautiful conversation, and I would love to have you come back anytime if you'd like. And so I want to thank everyone for being here, listening to the replay or listening to the live presentation. And so thank you. All right, we'll see you next week.